2020. A couple reminders here. This is on Schoology. You be sure you check that video and do these things that I put on the website. Okay, attributions. We want to know style, and we're going to start with the Proto-Renaissance with Giotto. And if you look at this, it's got some naturalism, some depth, some form, some modeling, the different color there to show depth, some real emotion, it's religious, and it has halo symbols. All right, so these are all Giotto's works. All right, then you're going to get to the Renaissance Italy. This is, I think, our key starting point, because they're going to ask about how does this art vary from traditional art. I think if it's painting, we're going to really go back to this. And quite simply, visually, when you look at it, a couple things of the Renaissance: naturalism. It looks like a real person. Linear perspective is the technique they use to create that perfect illusion. But it's more than just real, it's ideal. They're just kind of perfect. They use the technique of shading, modeling in the skin, a divine kind of beauty in the nature and in her and the halo and her children. It's religious, Christian, but it's classical with the natural form. All right, so these are all Italian Renaissance paintings that all have that sense of naturalism. So then, if you looked at this one, if they said, how does this one change from the past, you'd go back and you would just put them side by side. This one has perfect naturalism. This one has some naturalism. This one has perfect modeling. This one has some modeling. This one has linear perspective. This does not have linear perspective. And so just looking at it visually, this one has overt halos. This one has a very subtle halo. This one, the halo tells you that person is divine. This one, her beauty tells you that she's divine. So that's, and then if they say for context, why was the change? Remember, context is information. You'd say because of the Renaissance. It was the rebirth of the classical, the rebirth of naturalism, the invention of linear perspective. And there's more, but those are a couple things that would show this change. All right, then we're going to go to Northern Renaissance of the 1400s. Now, this is at the same time as the other one. So for this one, it's a little bit unique. This one has oil paint, hidden symbols, some really, really complex details. It's also biblical stories, but this is not linear perspective. See how the floor pops up? It's not linear perspective. It's a contemporary setting. She's just sitting in her living room on her iPad reading her Bible. This one, the influence is Gothic, not classical. That's why it's not naturalism. So for this one, for the Northern Renaissance, yes, it has some naturalism, but it does not have linear perspective. It is ideal. It has some shading. It has some modeling, but it's not a perfect illusion because it's not linear perspective. It has divine beauty. It is religious, but it is not classical. It's more Gothic. And there's some Northern Renaissance. You can see there, it's got the oil paint, but it's just not quite perfectly natural. All right, then they'll ask why. That's information that you know. Why is it different? Well, in the North, they're using oil paint. They have private patrons, and the influence is Gothic, not classical. That's the big one. It's Christian, not classical gods. And then we go to the High Renaissance, and really High Renaissance is the same as the Renaissance. It's just better. All the things we talked about earlier still exist exactly the same. It's just better. Now we go to Venice. This is interesting. Venice, if they ask you, is Venice traditional? Well, let's just go through the list. Is it beautiful? Yes. Is it naturalism? Yes. Is it idealism? Yes. Is it linear perspective? Yes. Shading, modeling, divine beauty, perfect illusion? Yes. One thing interesting. The religion here, it's not Christian, but she's a goddess. She's a classical goddess. So that's Venice. All right, now this is an interesting one. Mannerism. Is this one beautiful? No, it's disturbing. Is it naturalism? No, the proportions are odd. Is that idealistic? No, it's awkward. Does it have linear perspective? Yes. Shading? Yes. Modeling? Yes. But is it divine beauty? No, it's more disturbing. Is it religious? Yes, that's Jesus, but the content is biblical, but the form is very, very different. This lends itself to a real good contrast. So how is it different? This one is balanced, this one is unbalanced. This one is calm, this one is hectic. This one is spacious, this one is frenetic. This one gives a feeling of peace. This one is disturbing. So then, well, why? Well, the High Renaissance has ended. There's the Reformation. There's religious wars. The idealism is over, and you have a sense of innovation. All right, now let's go to the Baroque. Big change here. This is Baroque of the South, Caravaggio, 1600s. Is this beautiful? This has everything. Everything of the Renaissance. Yes, beautiful. Yes, naturalism. It is, everything is the same as the Renaissance, but it's also different. And these are all Caravaggios. And if you look at it, and again, if you're doing this at home, pause and really look at these images. But what's the change? The light, tenebrism, dramatic moment. You feel it. This takes place on Earth in some drug dealer's basement, it looks like. These are sketchy, dangerous people, but they're having a dramatic religious moment. It's very, very real, and that's Caravaggio. All right, now why would it be different? Well, it's the 1600s. It's the Counter-Reformation. They want emotion in the art. Art is used as a type of propaganda to get you to go back to the church, but they want you to feel the art, and they use oil paint. All right, then you can just see them all side by side. It's the best way to look at them. Okay, now, what style would that be? Okay. All right, now we'll go to the North. So Baroque North, which is the Dutch, which is Netherlands, Vermeer, 1600s. And again, it has all the traditional elements of the Renaissance that we've gone over again, but, and this is Vermeer. This is his pattern here. He definitely has a pattern. So how is it different? Well, this is a secular painting. That's a religious painting. This is not the Bible. It's a woman. This is the Bible. It's Mary, going back to traditional. This has overt symbols like halos. This has hidden symbols like Jesus on the wall. This one, the details are even more well done. The fabric, the light is golden. And this one is, and then why would this be different? Well, Catholic, Protestant, South Italy, Dutch North, Renaissance, Baroque, 1400, 1600. This is religious. This is secular. This is a monk in a church painted it. A private person bought this and bought it from Vermeer. Temper paint, oil paint, a biblical narrative, an actual woman. So that shows those two there. Okay. Now here we go. Rembrandt. Rembrandt also in the North, but Vermeer and Rembrandt, I would know both of them in our context. So this has a lot of the things we've talked about, the beauty, the naturalism, idealism, but it's also different, especially here. This is not religious. So the difference here is, what's different about Rembrandt's work? Okay, first thing, it's an etching. Second thing, he's famous for tone. You can feel it, mood, tone. The light's got a gradual, powerful effect. It's a portrait. Yes, it's naturalism. He captures the personality of the person. Why different? North, Protestant. It's not religious art. It's a portrait. Private patrons, they want pictures of people and themselves. They're not, in the North, they are not interested in religious art. Okay, this is Rubens, 1600s, Flanders. He has everything of the North. It's beautiful, naturalism, idealism, linear perspective, shading, modeling, divine beauty, perfect illusion, classical, religious. Yes, lots of classical here. Here there's the gods of the Greeks here. But what's different about him is, let's see here. What's different is his style looks almost more with the diagonal. It's very dynamic. It's very emotional, very dramatic here. It doesn't have that calm sense of the Renaissance. This is more like Baroque with the drama. Okay, that'll be part one. Part two is coming next.